Today I'm baking up 3 cheese stuffed bread. I start with 3.5 cups of bread flour, 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2.5 teaspoons of instant yeast, 2 tablespoons of melted butter, 1 cup of warm milk, 1 cup of cheddar cheese, 3/4 cups of Parmesan, and 3/4 cups of mozzarella. Now we want to start getting our yeast to bloom, so we're going to warm our milk up to 105 degrees, plus or minus a couple of degrees, and then we're going to pour into our warm bowl. Once our milk is in our bowl, we're going to add our yeast, and then we're going to grab our melted butter. So now we have all our warm ingredients together, and we're going to give this a quick stir just to blend the ingredients and help the yeast get wet all the way around. We're just going to set this aside for about 5 minutes, let the yeast do its work, and while that's sitting, we're going to start mixing our dry ingredients, our flour, our salt, and our sugar. We're going to put it in a sifter. I like to use a sifter just to mix the ingredients so that I have a better distribution of the dry ingredients. Now we're going to add our flour mixture to the yeast and milk mixture and spoon it in there. Let it get all formed till it's all like a dough. Once we get that going, we're going to switch over to our bread hook, and we're going to knead our dough for approximately 6 minutes. We're keeping an eye on the sides of the bowl to make sure that nothing's sticking to the bowl and they're nice and clean. I'm going to take my dough hook off and remove my bowl from my mixer. I'm going to take the dough out of the bowl. The bowl is really clean, checking the stretch of the dough, and I'm just going to use my bowl to proof my dough with. I make it into a ball, place it into the greased bowl, and then cover it with some plastic wrap, and I'm going to proof this for 1 hour to 90 minutes or until it's doubled in size. Once it's doubled in size, I'm going to weigh it on put it on my scale. I see it weighs 1,847 grams. I zero out my scale, and then I take the dough out of the bowl and put it onto my breadboard. I want to know how much the dough weighs because I'm going to divide this into 3 equal pieces. I divide 792 grams, which is the weight of the dough, into 3 equal pieces. As I form the ball, I stretch it into itself, and then I'm going to pinch the bottom of the ball together to where there's no seam left in the ball. I like to do this just because I think it helps with the proofing, and it also leaves no seam on your bread, whether you're making a single loaf or this loaf that we're making now, the braided loaf. And now we're going to put it for a second proofing. So I'm just going to cover it and let it rise, and you can see that it's done that. And now we're going to form each roll into a flat, just like we were going to do a pizza, and then we're going to stretch it out. We're going to hold it in shape for a while so where the gluten stretches and it doesn't spring back too much. I have the dough about 14 inches in length, and so I'm going to start stuffing it with my cheese. I put the cheese in the center, and then I start grabbing the dough, wrapping around it, and I want to pinch all the seams together, make sure there's no holes in it, and then I give it a little tug, let it rest, and then we're going to repeat this process for each cheese that we have. We're finished with our cheddar cheese, and now we're going to move on to our Parmesan cheese. Repeat the process, give it a little stretch, bring it to the center, start pinching it together, work your way from the center to the outside, pinch it together, and then roll it and put the seam on the bottom. And finally, we're going to finish by rolling out the third roll and adding our mozzarella. And then bring it together, pinch it, seal it all up. You want to have a good seal so the cheese doesn't leak out during the baking process. Now we're going to let them rest for a few minutes, just to have the gluten rest. And once they've rested about 5 minutes, we're going to bring them onto our baking pan, give them a little stretch. We want the loaves to be equal in length, equal in diameter. At this point, it's a good idea to let your loaves rest a minute, see if they're going to stretch or shrink back into shape. Once you're confident that they're going to maintain their shape, we're going to start the braiding process. I always have a little bit difficult time braiding. I'm not the best braider in the world. I haven't done a lot of braiding of hair and stuff like that, so I always have to look at my loaf a couple times, make sure I get it right. But once I get the first one going, the next one's repeat itself pretty easily. I braid it all the way to the end. I put a little bit of water on each end and I pinch them together. I put it in for another proofing. Once it's proofed a final time, I'm going to give it a little egg wash to give it some color during the baking process. I like to just take the egg white and blend it up a little bit so it's more liquidy at room temperature before I do my wash. I'm going to cover this with just a little bit of the Parmesan cheese that I have left over, just for visual effects. And there you have it. There's the braided loaf all baked up. I'm going to give it a little pesto and butter brush. I'm going to let the bread rest for about a half an hour, put it on my bread rack before I start cutting it. And there you have it. Beautiful 3 cheese stuffed bread. Thanks for watching my video. Hope you enjoyed it and hope you give this recipe a try.